A possible recession this year. At its National Executive Council, lekgotla, the ANC called for bold action from government in order to grow the economy inclusively and to avert the possibility of a credit rating downgrade. Earlier, my colleague Devin Murrigan spoke to ANC Treasurer General Zweli Mkhize. He started by asking him if there's a consensus in the ruling party on what that bold action should be.
There is a broad consensus of certain things that need to be done. The first one of those is about how to manage the fiscus, ensuring that we reduce the budget deficit and also reduce expenditure at that level. I think it's important that when we look at the coming budget, we should look at the signs, because the main areas of the payment, the repayment, debt repayment is a huge amount. The personnel remuneration, salaries is also pretty high. So we need to be able to say where else do we manage the budget. But in addition, we need to also look at issues that will help to stimulate growth, build the confidence, so that between government and private sector, there's a lot of working together, so that we can attract a bit more, a bit more investment. The tight management of the state-owned enterprises, and in particular to look at public-public partnership, public-private partnership, to be able to avoid further increases, for example, in the tariff on ESCOM and all of those issues. So there is a broad area, and then of course areas of governance, tightening on governance, reducing, ballooning of personnel, but also dealing with the issue of corruption and very tight management on the fiscus. So for us broadly, there are areas where we believe that government need to be very bold and strong in dealing with them.
It's interesting, you mentioned confidence, and you mentioned this relationship between government, business and labour. And confidence is a key word here. I was just speaking to a broker a few moments ago who pointed out to the 20 billion rand of outflows that left the country in January alone. Hence I'm using the word confidence. I mean, what are we doing? Are we doing something wrong, or can we do something better to reinstill that confidence?
I think firstly we need to understand that the pressure we're going through is more related to currency volatility that is linked to the economic, the global economic situation. The prices of our commodities are down, and a lot of our trading partners are having a challenge. But at the same time, I think between ourselves, the South Africans, government, labor, private sector, we need to really, this is the time now for a social compact that will really say how can we work together, a win-win kind of solution that will help to stabilize the country.
Let's get a different take on this. We're joined by a businessman, entrepreneur, author, Herman Mashaba, who is now the DA mayoral candidate for Johannesburg. And of course, the DA held its March for Jobs this week. Thank you for joining us, Herman. It's fine to march for jobs, to criticize the ANC. How do you create them?
Well, I think you create jobs by making sure that there's confidence in the country. So at this point in time, if as a nation we're not really going to send the signal out there to the business community, South African ones first, that we're serious about job creation, we're serious about businesses that makes money, because businesses that makes money are the ones that are going to employ our people. But in particular, we need small business development in this country, because for the last 15 odd years, we've really been devastating small businesses in this country. And those are the ones that have really been responsible for really kickstarting this economy.
How do you create the environment for small business?
Well, I think at the national level, we sit with a major problem on our hands in this country because of the tripartite alliance, COSATU and the South African Communist Party dominating economic policy decisions in this country. For as long as I think we have a government that pushes communist, socialist policies that actually even Stalin himself has already forgotten that this government is trying to push, and we think you can drive economic development in the country. We're actually fooling ourselves. So what we need to do, we need to really come out with policies that are friendly to the business community, friendly to small business development, allow businesses in this country to operate, because this country's policy cannot really be shaped around looking after COSATU's interest. Under 2 million South Africans, we pass policy positions that are really in favor of such grouping. And I'm not really for a minute saying that we don't have to really take care of our
let me say, be specific, because COSATU would say that it just cares about workers, that workers are suffering, that we cannot, one of the complaints is for business is a lack of flexibility in the labour market and too high wages. But some workers are struggling with those wages. So
yes, the workers are struggling with their wages because our economy is underperforming. We'll be lucky, in fact, if our economy will actually enjoy a 1% growth, which is really a shame when we're sitting with inflation sitting close to 6%. So basically, as South Africans, we're really getting poorer. It's not just really the working class, but what about the 8.5 million unemployed South Africans? We have men and women in this country, in our communities. I've never really had an employment opportunity for the last 10-15 years. So what we believe, as long as I think we're not really going to have a conducive environment to ensure that we have a friendly business environment in our country, we're going to really be making terrible mistakes. I think, unfortunately, without any doubt, everyone in this country, including government themselves, they know they're so unfriendly to business. I don't understand how our government can be so anti-business, because they don't realize that economic growth, you create wealth in any economy by allowing businesses to operate and letting government stay out. Government's role is to create the conducive environment for business people to really be the players. But unfortunately, in our case, we have a government that believes that they are the engine that can drive economic growth. As I said earlier on, even Stalin has forgotten about the type of policies.
Well, Stalin's dead.
No, I'm telling you, the policies that our government are pushing.
What's the one policy that needs to be implemented
immediately,
straight away?
Please, if we can ask our parliament and call the president and the ANC to call parliament to sit on Monday, when deal with Section 32 of the Labour Relations Act. Section 32 of the Labour Relations Act
says
responsible for destroying small businesses in this country, has been responsible for denying 8 and 9 million.
What does it say in layman's terms?
This piece of legislation allows COSATU and big business to get together on a regular basis, determine and agree on conditions of employment. And the devastating effect of this is that these private agreements are then given to the Minister of Labour, who must then extend these agreements to other businesses in that particular sector. What we're saying is you look at what this piece of legislation has really done. You know, if it was during the day, just today, just check with all the businesses which were closed by bargaining councils in this country. So this
is a complaint by small businesses that they can't always afford the wages that big businesses agree to as part of the bargain.
And we've been asking, as from the Free Market Foundation when I was the chairman, and I'm obviously leading this particular case on behalf of the Free Market Foundation. We're not even against the minister extending this agreement. What we're saying to the minister, you can't really be forced by private parties to extend the agreements. So what we're saying is, instead of master, we say, Minister, you may extend, but please allow yourself to apply your mind. The Minister of Labour in this country is not interested, because her interest is COSATU, not even COSATU members. It's COSATU as an organisation.
How far does it go then in those small businesses? If there is no protection for workers, how low can the wages go? If that businessman can only pay R5 or says he can pay R5, should workers accept that?
Well, fortunate enough, Francis, we live in a democratic country. If you don't want to really work, no one forces you to work. But it's a really unfortunate way people who believe they've got the power to actually stop South Africans, able-bodied South Africans, refuse them to really work. And you tell me you've got noble intentions. Unfortunately, for me, this is an evil kind of system that has deprived millions of unskilled South Africans.
But you have to admit, sometimes there's exploitation of workers.
By who? Who's exploiting who?
If there's a monopoly, say, a whole sector can come together and keep wages low.
We're not talking about monopoly here. We're talking about the desperate 8.5 million South Africans, 36 million unemployed people, 36%. We have the highest unemployment rate in the world. I don't know if you're aware about that. We have the highest rate of youth unemployment in the world, with the one of the worst performing economies in the world. These are not the things created by me. These effects are there all over. Now, how do you really then tell me who's exploiting who here? For me, if we believe the poor South Africans, those with no education, with no experience, And anyone tells me that government cares about them, unfortunately, I think it's a very unfortunate situation, and poor people are one day.
We're running out of time. Very quickly. So you're saying business is the key to everything. The Reserve Bank's decision yesterday, correct one?
Well, I think what options do they really have? They had absolutely no option whatsoever, because they've got to really stop this inflation really getting out of hand. But at the same time, then really look at the middle class in this country, what they're going to be paying. And now we saw the rent strengthening today. Is that serious money coming into our inflow into our country? These are speculators. So we can't, in fact, even celebrate the strengthening of the rent, because this is not serious money coming in to invest in businesses on long term. These are speculators that are actually creaming on this opportunity, because on a daily basis they'll make an additional 0.5% interest, because they're bringing billions into our economy. But those billions overnight can flow out of this. So what we're saying as South Africans, if we need to strengthen our rent, let's strengthen it by ensuring that we bring in money that invest in fixed infrastructure in this country.
So foreign direct investment.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your take. That was Herman Mashaba, the DA mayoral candidate for Johannesburg. And unfortunately, that's all we have time for. Thank you for joining us on Primetime Business. There will be business updates throughout the evening. Ciao.